What's up, YouTube? Mr. Llama here, and today we are going to be uncovering the Diablo 4 quarterly update for October 2021. This is going to be discussing a lot of the sound design of Diablo 4. I don't think they're going to dive too much into all the mechanics of the game. I believe that is going to be the next update that they're going to kind of dive into all of that. But at the very least, while we're all excited about D2R right now and jamming on that, let's go ahead and enjoy a little bit of the Diablo 4 update, while we're here. So, first off, let's get right into it. Hello and welcome once again to a new Diablo 4 quarterly update. I'm Joe Shelley from the Diablo 4 team as a design lead who has been working on this dark, shared, open world action role-playing game from the beginning. I'm honored to continue the vision of Diablo 4 as its new game director, and I'm humbled to represent the team pouring hearts into this game. That is a huge opening paragraph right there. There is now a new Diablo 4 game director. Joe Shelley has now taken over. Joe Shelley was a game designer in Diablo 3. However, he has played a lot of Diablo 2 as well. I know that was a thing when he was growing up. I've talked with him. So I'm 50-50 on it. I've met the guy. I like the guy. I thought he was a great guy. But obviously he's had a lot of game design with Diablo 3. And so, of course, I'm always going to have an initial worry that he's going to draw more from those systems as they're more of what he has created in the past rather than Diablo 2 systems. But like I said, he did grow up playing Diablo 2. So, I don't know, right? I don't know. My hope is that he does lean into more of the systems from Diablo 2, lean more into creating new systems in Diablo 4, and doesn't rely on a lot of the D3 stuff. That is my personal hope right there. Regardless, interesting to note that he is the new director right there. Like many of you, our team has been reflecting upon recent events. A lot has happened since our last blog, and the hard work of practicing the values we aspire to must continue. In parallel with what's important work, development of Diablo 4 continues too. Over the past few years, we've assembled a strong team with incredible passion for Diablo 4. You, Diablo fans, are a critical part of this team. With the help of your valuable feedback, we've steadily refined and deepened this game experience. We have ways to go, and while much has changed, our commitment to the game is unwavering. Sanctuary should always be items glittering in dark dungeons, tales of powerful heroes standing against the onslaught of hell, lands where trials, treasure, and terrible monsters lie around every corner, equal parts familiar and boundless in its possibilities. Doing this world justice is a solemn responsibility. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the sound design of Diablo 4. Sound is sometimes underappreciated yet integral element of the game's design, serving as a channel for communicating everything from incoming damage to confirmation that a button press was registered by the game to the intensity of a combat sequence. Try turning off a sound in a Diablo game sometime. You'll find your eyes have to work a lot harder to follow the action. I mean, this is very true. Diablo 2, and once again, I'm a Diablo 2 fanboy, so I'm going to talk highly of Diablo 2. The Diablo 2 sound system is amazing and is such an important, critical piece of the game. Not only are the sounds important to following the action and everything, but the simple beauty of it, the iconic skull sounds and gems and amulets and charms and all of those sounds are nostalgic and wonderful in themselves. On top of the music and everything, there is a lot that sound really adds. So I completely agree with that. Sound also conveys the subtext of the world through which you adventure. It supports the rising and falling action of the campaign and immerses you into the ambient life of a region, transporting you into the game world. While you're reading through the blog, I encourage you to listen to the ambient tracks and pay attention to their effect on your heart rate and emotions. Try closing your eyes while listening to get a better sense of how much is being communicated. Creating Diablo 2's sound requires science, art, and the occasional ball of fire. Sound supervisor Chris Giampa and his team have fascinating insights to share in this behind-the-scenes look at how it all works. We hope you enjoyed this update and look forward to your thoughts and reactions. As promised, our next blog will cover endgame systems and visual effects. It's been a while since we looked at systems, and there's a lot we're excited to share here. Okay, that's definitely something. Endgame systems is going to be big, so that'll be big in the next one. Let us know what topics you'd like to hear about in the future, too. We are grateful to have you with us on this journey. Thank you for playing the stuff we make. Joe Shelley. The sound design of Diablo 4. Hello, Traveler. I'm Chris Giampa, sound supervisor for Diablo 4. The sounds team has been steadily cranking away on the soundscape for a while now, and while we aren't ready to go in depth about the music side of Diablo 4 quite yet, darn it, we wanted to give you some insight into some of the audio processes, content, and motivations behind the sound for the game. Before we begin, we wanted to give you something to listen to while you are reading this quarterly update blog. Please enjoy the snowy, dark, and stormy ambience of fractured peaks below as you start on your journey. Like it. A little loud, but there we go. Sorry. Sound and music in games are the invisible glue that supports the storytelling and ties you to your character and their actions during gameplay. TMCA, no, we're good. Creating sound for games is an exciting artistic endeavor that you can't see, only hear. However, you can feel it literally with the sound waves against your body depending on what you're listening back on. It's an amazing medium that can also affect how you feel emotionally while playing a game. A lot of times it's subtle and other times it's over the top, but always there to support the moment-to-moment gameplay. We hope you enjoy this dive into various aspects of the game's soundscape, and you'll have plenty more to look forward to and experience when you finally get to play it. Naturally, we want anyone and everyone who might be hearing impaired to enjoy the experience of Diablo 4 as well. We're taking measures to broaden the experience to be inclusive for people with hearing or visual disabilities. There are various accessibility features underway that we hope to talk about more in the future. That's cool. The devil is in the details. Oh, that's cute, because like Diablo. For the Diablo 4 soundscape, we've continued the tradition of gratifying combat, expanded upon the ambience to support the epic open world, continued to embrace the darkness in tone and gore while also trying to deliver a cleaner yet punchy audio mix that's adapting to the situations as you play. One of the biggest goals we try to focus on as sound designers is to make the highest quality sounds to be triggered back in the game real time and make them seem believable as well as grounded within the game world, tied to what you are experiencing. The randomness of audio playback is of the utmost importance when it comes to gameplay. If you think about real life, nothing is ever heard the exact same way due to your listening environment and the positioning of a sound source. Sounds never play back at the same exact sound pressure level, along with the reflections within your environment and everything else happening around you at that moment in time. In essence, there are always subtle, real-life reasons as to why nothing ever sounds exactly the same. So as sound designers for video games, we always strive to introduce subtle, randomized variation to not only sound design itself, but also for when you hear it in-game. That's really cool. When we are doing our job correctly, it's something you tend to not notice and supports your immersion in the game world by backing up the incredible visuals, story, and end-to-end experience. That is really an interesting thing I've never thought about for, like, in-game. Another huge goal we have when creating audio for Diablo 4 is to fill in the sounds for just about everything that's occurring on your screen. Whether it's world ambience, monsters idling off screen, the tiny chunks of wood that are colliding off a wall when you break an object, everything should make a sound. We pour countless hours of effort into covering almost everything you see and don't see, while also keeping it subtle enough to not be distracting and just feel right. The devil certainly lurks within the details. They said it again. However, just because we are filling in as much sound as we can, it doesn't mean you need to hear it every time. The playback engine within the game will not trigger too many instances of a sound if they are trying to play at the same time based on strict settings we create as basic rules. Because of the isometric camera view and being able to see so much on the screen at once, we must limit how many instances of each sound will play back at any given moment. Once dialed in correctly, you tend to not to notice that some instances were never triggered. And that helps with the clarity of the audio mix. It's a fine line we straddle during big moments with a lot going on screen. How about we get on to more of the creative side of sound design? Naturally, there is no Diablo game without the heroes who do your bidding to vanquish the various evils that lie in your path. Let's talk about some of the fire-based sorcerer skills that partly define the class. Hero fire skills. The sound crew luckily gets to record all kinds of neat and unique sounds for the game, so that we have plenty of sound source to edit from when it comes time to start sound designing. Sound design is technically described as taking a recorded audio source, editing it, and processing it to be used in another medium. That word. In the case of sound design for games, we'll record raw audio, reprocess them, and edit it for our gameplay needs in various ways to achieve something that sounds clean, usable, and replayable for gameplay. The sound could be exactly what it was originally meant for, or end up sounding completely different and used for something else entirely. Something we always tend to need for a game like Diablo is of course fire. When time permits, we plan for some time to record sounds out in the field. That's cool. For Diablo 4, one of the first big recordings we did as a team was a desert fire session before the lockdown for COVID. We traveled far from the Blizzard HQ to record various types of fire sounds in the deserts of California, armed with multiple recording rigs and microphones. Thankfully, since it was wintertime, it wasn't too hot during the day and just a bit cold at night. While our main goal is to capture fire, we ended up capturing all kinds of other sounds we have used during production, like ambience, rock impacts, foliage movements, wood impacts, door slams, wooden cabin creaks, metal impacts, and scrapes. Nice. Sorcerer skills, Firebolt and Inferno. Some of the fire recordings were then used specifically for the Sorcerer skills, Firebolt, and Inferno. For the skill Firebolt, we recorded sets of wispy and smoldering flame whooshes using a fire staff or a dried out medium-sized log of wood, and performed the sound in various ways around sets of microphones. Once we had a nice assortment of different types of fire sounds, we then edited and processed those fire whooshes into a game-ready one-shot audio file for the casting and impact sounds, as well as longer loops for the projectile traveling through the air. It all comes together as one cohesive sounding experience once we get it hooked up in the game and playback as the entire skill sound effect set for Firebolt. That's cool. Whooshes, it's a very technical term. For the Inferno Sorcerer skill, we then used other takes of the fire recordings and processed them to sound more aggressive and powerful for the larger skill. Just like Firebolt, there's a set of casting one-shot sounds, a set of loops, and another set of one-shots for when the snake form constricts its body. Ooh. One cool thing about the Inferno skill is that while it's fire that has taken the form of a snake. Because of this form, we're able to take some liberties on pushing away from just fire sound design. We added some light snake rattling SFX paired with the darker toned ethereal end to the skill sound to make it feel a bit more magical. When all these pieces re-trigger in game, it will always sound like the same skill but be slightly different each time, which increases the replayability sound-wise. That's cool. Let's pause this and play this. This looks so fun. Burn it all! Ooh. That's a cool sound too.
Slate this. Big flame.
This is Poi Ball of Death.
Take two.
Take two.
take 4 or 5. With the fire staff, all 4 wicks are on fire. It's a big one. It's a big one.
Bro, this is awesome. This is the coolest thing ever. Like, you can hear all of these sounds in the game. What? What is that? That's Inferno? Bro, that's insane. Cast a big old fire snake. It's a fake snake, you guys. Don't worry. It like looks cool, but I'm definitely confused a little bit about the area of effect on it. That's the part that would be confusing to me if I was playing through the game. Like it looks amazing. But is it the area of effect is the part that I would be confused on. I don't know. It's a flame circle, but it's like contracting in and out. So is it damaging on the in? Is it damaging on the constriction? I don't know. It's an ultimate? Maybe. Maybe. Anyways. Those sounds, though, were amazing. I'm not going to lie. Everything about that sound processing creation piece was high quality. Monster sound design. Diablo games wouldn't be as fun if you didn't have monsters to slay. One of the most fun things about working on a Diablo game is the vast amount of variants of monsters that exist. This makes monsters ripe for both experimental and more traditional sound design. So let's dig into some of the monster sound design for Foley and voice. Foley? Probably Foley, right? Monster movements. The combination of expert animation and AI brings life and personality to the creatures as they undertake their nefarious activities. Foley. Huh. I don't know that word. When we start the audio process for a brand new monster, I always recommend that the sound designers start by adding footsteps and Foley, clothing or skin, to their movement animations. The moment the creature has footsteps and Foley, the creature's cadence and rhythm of their movement really comes to life. It's at this point I consider they are becoming grounded and attached to the world. This also dictates how vocal they might sound based on their patterns and movements. It's pronounced Iodol. Oh, okay. Monster voice. The next layer that finishes the birthing of a creature into existence is their voice exertions. These are the grunting, or yelling sounds of them exerting at the player as they attack, or the screams of pain as you take them out one by one. Each monster family can be quite different from the next, so depending on the type of monster, we might have intense sound design layers of animalistic type sounds, or even everyday objects that we will manipulate to sound like a screech or scream to create a layer within that final voice. Other times it can be simpler, as we'll hire creature voice actors to help the creature create the core tone of the monster's voice that can then be built around with other sounds. In the case of the Wood Wraith, it's almost fully sound designed from the wood creaks and strains processed to extreme lengths and choosing the right sounds to convey emotion. The Wood Wraith was a blast to sound design as it's mostly freaky and creaky wood sounds with a touch of very low-pitched human tone underneath it all. It looks like Tyrael, doesn't it? If Tyrael was a tree. This is pretty sick. Diablo 2 Tree Edition, yeah. That's pretty sick. Another monster we had the pleasure of working on is the disgustingly awesome Fly Host. This beast walks around birthing flies to attack the player. Ugh. We ended up using some of our most early gore session recordings where we ripped and smacked cabbages and melons and stirred and squished mayonnaise, salsa, and a delicious 7-layer dip into a not so great smelling slurry to make some great slimy and disgusting sounds to use in our sound design. This one will be interesting. Ugh. Yeah, get in there with them hands. Get nice and deep in there. Ugh. Wow. Good stuff. Open world ambience. One of the audio pillars for Diablo 4 is living audio. What this means is that the soundscape is ever evolving and never static. The pillar is built deep into the sound design variations we create for all types of sounds, including when it plays back real time in the game, especially the ambience. Because of the importance of the massive open world, we want to give the ambience as much detail as possible and think of it on the same level of hero sound design. Having the audio and systems changing subtly over time is key to this pillar. We always want subtle changes in ambience that might not be very noticeable, less repeatable, and feel more natural and immersive overall. The world building team has done an amazing job giving us huge amounts of inspiration in filling out regions visually so that we can follow up with immersive ambient audio. Since the player might be in the open world for a large amount of time, we wanted to support each exterior region with unique sounding environments that also include subtle changes to the audio mix over time. To help achieve this, we use audio systems like real-time occlusion, high-quality reverbs, and environment reactive delay/echoes. We've provided some long-form recordings of in-game footage with a static shot where you can hear the ambience changing over time. Not only does this show some cool ambient sound design, but we also wanted to provide these for your tabletop RPG sessions. Nice! Or even just sit back and get lost in while working. The clips were recorded around 5 to 6 minutes and looped to be almost 1 hour. We'll listen to just a little bit. That is nice for dry steps. Yeah, we don't need to listen to a whole hour, but we can do a couple things here and there. New sleep audio, right? This is a cool update. I'm liking this a lot. Dungeon ambience. When it comes to the Diablo dungeon crawling style ambience, we take a special delight in creating various and unique sounding experiences to heighten your immersion. Our approach to the dungeon ambiences is a bit less intense compared to the new open world, as we don't want to distract you away from a key part of what makes a Diablo game fun, dungeon crawling. This is one area where we can take more liberties in diving deeply into the hellish and creepy soundscapes while having the monsters on screen to accompany the audible experience. For Diablo 4, we are taking a more realistic approach to what you hear is what you get when within a dungeon. With long reverberation and sound occlusion, we want you to pay close attention to what just might be around the corner, mentally preparing you for the next pack of enemies. Breakable interactives. Scattered around the dungeons are a plethora of gratifyingly great breakables. The interactives team have been creating hundreds of amazingly detailed breakable objects in Diablo 4. For the amazing amount of detail they put into objects as they break, we in turn wanted to fill in every sliver and chunk of destruction you see with believable physics audio. Destroying objects in Diablo should sound just as gratifying and believable as taking down monsters. We put a lot of effort into making sure that all objects have an extremely gratifying break sound while supporting the debris with tiny bits of audio to accompany the pieces that break apart and fly across a room. I'm still amazed at the level of detail we have for the breakables in Diablo 4. One of my favorite things to do when I see a room full of them is have at 'em. Let's see. Alright, these sound pretty cool. It's good stuff. Game mix. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about the isometric camera. It provides some interesting challenges when it comes to bringing all the elements of the game mix together. Because you can see Battlefield at a certain angle out of a certain range, we have to make sure the monsters existing on the screen are covered with audio, but have the overall mix not to feel too cluttered nor too empty. There's a lot of real-time juggling of sound playback based on priorities and importance to you, the player. For Diablo 4, we were able to drive real-time audio mix more than ever before. Because of the isometric camera view, we must trigger sounds on just about everything you see, but focus your ears on the most important sounds you should be paying attention to. We've been carving away at audio mix states and an audio important system that will allow certain important monster sounds to poke out when they are needed. Clarity of game audio mix is hard to achieve in a game where you can have multiple heroes as well as various amounts of monsters on screen, while having detailed ambiences means we need to craft different audible mix states depending on the situation. We hope you have enjoyed this brief look into the sound design of Diablo 4. There's so much more to talk about, but alas, we'll have to save it for another time. We welcome any feedback you might have about anything you've heard in the videos or learned in this quarter's blog. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about the soundscape of Diablo 4. Chris Giampa. I mean, I thought that was a really cool update. I'm not going to lie. I thought a lot of the sound stuff was really interesting, and I enjoyed for sure. There's one thing that I do want to talk about with it. One thing I want to talk about as a feedback piece. But overall, I thought the audio stuff was great. What I do want to talk about is I miss in all of these new games light radius. I'm in a dungeon. Give me some real darkness. Like, actually blacken the screen. Right? This is something that I truly miss, and it's just not. It just really doesn't exist, but it's something that I want to address because I want them to really take note of that if we're really diving into look at the darkness that exists in the game and how much creepier this is because of that, right? When I come over here and you just show me the whole screen and it's like fake darkness, but I can still really see everything, you know? Everything is still very well lit, even if it's not well lit, right? Like, there's no real black darkness. And this is just the piece that give me this black, this pitch black that I'm running into. Yeah, have monsters have their lights and things like that, but having this pitch blackness is so much creepier. And if you want to talk about ambience and darkness and all of that, I mean, this is so much better in my opinion. This is horror right here. I have this light around me and then nothing. And I'm exploring through and all the torches and everything. That is the one note that I do want to make, and that's just from having watched a lot of the, pieces that they've showed us, is there's not really a true blackness. There's still way too much lighting, even if there's not light, and it's just, it needs to be like darker, should actually just be black. Just blacken around and make it so much scarier, right? So that's my one feedback piece on it. Otherwise, I thought the update was great. I thought the sounds were really cool. Loved it all. So GG, D4 looking cool right there. Still excited for it. We'll see how it keeps developing. I'm excited for the end games discussion in the next blog for sure. I definitely want to hear more about that, what their plans are, and then additionally their plans for, still trading and items and all of that stuff, the really key important like critical pieces of the game. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this, YouTube. Peace.